Welcome back to another episode of the Hard Truth Canada. I'm Chance, and today we have some crazy topics from a criminal out on bail, lights a police officer on fire. Then we have the CBC going down to America, to the White House, and asking, does Trump still want us? Does Trump still want to take over Canada? She didn't sound like that, but you'll get the message. Then we have this lady called Marg Delahunty, the Princess Liberal Warrior. And I came across this video yesterday, and it was cringy. It was cringy, I'm not gonna lie. And then we're gonna break down a little video. Not break it down, we're gonna watch a video. So 3 weeks ago I came out with the connection of Mark Carney to Donald Trump. But David from Moose on the Loose kills it. Absolutely kills it with the most detailed video on the subject I have yet come across. Where I'm like a little teaser into mine. My video is a little bit teaser, get your brain thinking about it. He goes into depth. It is unbelievable. But first, I think it's important. Why are liberals still okay with the liberal policies? Like, what has this world come to when a guy out on bail is able to light a cop on fire? Now his court hearing is scheduled for tomorrow, if he can get bail or not. So we'll see the outcome of that. But if you haven't seen this already, let me show you. Oops. I hit the wrong button.
And we're learning.
Sorry, you need to bear with me. I'm still not a professional. Nor ever will be. Oops. There we go. Here we go. Alright. We'll just blow this up a bit. And you can watch for yourself.
And we're learning more tonight about the criminal record of the man who's accused. And we're learning more tonight about the criminal record of the man who's accused of setting a Vancouver police officer on fire. An attack that was partially caught on video. As Kristen Robinson reports, it includes everything from assault to civil forfeiture.
The man accused of assaulting a peace officer and omitting to assist another after a VPD officer was set on fire was wanted province-wide on 10 outstanding charges. Since 2022, 40-year-old Jordan Mutual has been in and out of jail. Accused of possessing a prohibited firearm with ammo, a firearm without a license, and a weapon for a dangerous purpose. Then assault by choking, assault, uttering death threats, more firearms charges, and a breach. Months later, 2 more breaches. According to court documents, Mutual was released on $1,000 bail last May and ordered to live in this West End apartment building behind me under electronic monitoring and 24-hour house arrest. Less than a month before his arrest last Thursday, a warrant was issued for Mutual's arrest on 2 charges of breaching his release order.
Every time there's a horrific case like we saw, it's our job to understand if the system failed, and if it did fail, where were the gaps that we need to step in. So I do that every time, and I will be doing that in this case.
In 2020, Mutual was the subject of a civil forfeiture action over stacks of cash seized in 2 separate incidents. In November 2019, the VPD arrested Mutual on an outstanding warrant. A fanny pack containing $5,600 and $800 US was seized. In February 2020, he was arrested on a breach. A search found $6,500 cash and $5 US, plus a backpack with 14 cell phones. Drug testing on the cash confirmed fentanyl, methamphetamine, and cocaine contamination on each of the samples, according to the Notice of Civil Claim, which alleges the money has been used by Mr. Mutual to engage in unlawful activities, including trafficking controlled substances. When no response to the civil claim was filed by April 2021, the court ordered all the cash forfeited. Mutual remains in custody ahead of a bail hearing Thursday. Kristen Robinson, Global News.
And we're learning more tonight about the criminal record of the man who...
So, there you have it. This man was already out on bail. Had a warrant for arrest. 10 charges under his belt. 2 breaches. I think it was maybe 2 to 4 breaches. Couldn't keep up with it. But the point of the matter is, they have a committee wondering if the system has failed itself. Really? The fact that he's got all those charges pending, the fact that there's a warrant out for his arrest, the fact that he was out on bail, and the obvious fact that he lit a Vancouver officer on fire, I would say the system has more than just failed. It has shit the bed big time. So now I want to talk about
who's accused of setting a Vancouver...
Sorry about that. Now I want to talk about a CBC reporter goes to the White House and asks some questions about the 51st state rhetoric. Why? Well, because they want to push that narrative. But it gets deeper than that, and you'll see later. But why is the CBC going to Washington to start some shit about the 51st state? We haven't heard about it in weeks. You know, liberals are going downhill. So maybe the CBC, a government-funded media corporation, maybe they could bring the liberal back up a little bit by getting more the 51st state narrative. So let's see what she has to say. Whoa.
Yesterday, in the Oval Office, President Trump suggested that there could be some help for automakers. I'm wondering what that looks like. Is it tariff relief on the 25% tariffs that are in place right now, or the new tariffs that are coming up in May on auto parts? And a second on Canada, if I may. President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. Ever since the election campaign started, he stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose and why.
I would reject the president's position on Canada has shifted. Perhaps he just hasn't been asked about Canada by questions from this group in the Oval Office, but they see him almost every day. But the president still maintains his position on Canada. The United States has been subsidizing Canada's national defense, and he believes that Canadians would benefit greatly from becoming the 51st state of the United States of America. As for autos and auto parts, I don't have anything to read out for you there, but I think the point the president was making is flexibility, and he has flexibility when it comes to negotiations and talks, but ultimately his goal in his fair trade deals that he is pursuing with many countries around the world is to put the American worker first. And we had automakers and auto workers here at the White House on Liberation Day who believe in this president and his negotiating ability to put them first and to bring those jobs back to the United States of America. And the president's been very clear about that in his conversations with the automakers as well.
So, you heard it. Why are they pushing that narrative? That's my question. Why? Why? Is it to keep the liberal voters so distracted from reality on what's actually happening? Maybe that's it. That's the only thing I can come up with. Now I want to show this I can't even, I'm looking at the video right now, you can't see it on the screen, but oh my lord. Welcome to Princess Warrior returns to fight in the 2025 trade war. Is this a conservative ad or a liberal one? it'll be obvious as soon as I hit out of this screen. Let's get out of this screen. Sorry guys, I'm new to this, so bear with me. Boom, there, wham. Can you tell by the colors? Let's hit play. It's 3 minutes long, so bear with me, but it's, yeah, you're gonna enjoy this. You're gonna sit down, get some popcorn, because this is funny.
Hi, I'm Margella Hunty, Princess Warrior. Well, I had to break out the old plastic sword and clap on the breastplate just to try to quell the rising fear, anxiety, and terror that we're all feeling now that Trump has threatened to destroy us economically and make us the 51st state. Oh, mind out you don't swell up and bust. I'll tell you one thing, though. We have got to be on guard. Oh, yeah. At this point, I'd usually say we got to strap on a set of balls. But like Betty White said, if you want to get tough, she said, never mind strapping on a set of balls, she said. What you need to strap on is a vagina, because those things can really take a pounding. And we are going to get tough, let's face it, because we're going to have to go into battle toe to hoof against the dark, destructive, demonic forces of American expansionism, let alone the cheesy puff himself, the Mango Mussolini, Don the Con, the Cheeto in chief. But like poor Mom used to always say, there's something good bound to come out of everything. Because the Yanks have turned on us like a bunch of cracked hyenas, maybe us Canadians will stop with our relentless self-contempt and start looking to ourselves for approval instead of to the Yanks. Oh, we gotta grow up. Elbows up, and let's drop the mitts so we can use those hands to turn on beautiful Canadian films and Canadian broadcasting and Canadian culture of all sorts. And what better day to do it than April 16th, National Canadian Film Day, when all across the country, hundreds of thousands of Canadians in every province and territory are going to be jarred up sitting down watching a fabulous Canadian film. And let that be the first shot in our war against cultural domination and threatened actual domination of our country by the great harlot, Babylon, or the U.S. as they prefer to be called. And don't make me come back here and smite you. Get on that now. Because I will. Because I'm Marg, Princess Warrior.
What the fuck? Tell me you're not laughing. Tell me you're not laughing. If you're not laughing, let me know in the comments below, because what the world? But anyway, anyways, 3 weeks ago, I came out with a short video about the Mark Carney's connection to Donald Trump via Brookfield, via Kushner, via his apartment, blah blah. Anyways, I'll play a little snippet of it on today's episode. You can watch the rest of it later. I might as well just play the whole thing, honestly. Keep in mind, this is 3 weeks ago. This is I think like a couple weeks into making videos for YouTube, so I'm not very good, but it is what it is. Anyway, so let's go ahead, hit play, and see what happens.
What if I told you that the biggest political shift in Canada's history wasn't an accident? That Mark Carney didn't just step into leadership by chance. that Brookfield didn't just move to the United States for financial reasons. That Trump's endorsement on Carney wasn't random. That Musk's Twitter takeover wasn't part of something bigger. Get your tinfoil hat on, folks. I might start sounding crazy, but hear me out. What if it's all been a coordinated power move from the start? That the timeline just doesn't add up. Brookfield, one of Canada's biggest giants, moves its head office from Toronto to New York. This gives them more access to US capital markets, but it also means Canadian financial power shifts out of Canadian control. And then Carney suddenly takes over the Liberal Party just as Trudeau's popularity collapses. He didn't just enter politics years ago. He entered it right at the right moment. Brookfield helps Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, by bailing out his failing property deal. Why? Then, Brookfield invests in Musk's Twitter takeover, helping Musk secure one of the most powerful communication platforms on the planet. And then guess what happens next? Trump, the guy you'd expect to endorse Pierre Poilievre, suddenly distanced himself from him and backs Carney instead. What does this all mean? It means that Carney isn't just running Canada. He's part of a much bigger game. Carney has political power in Canada. Brookfield has financial power in the United States. Trump's allies, Kushner and Brookfield, are tied to both of them. And Musk controls the flow of information. A borderless power shift is happening. And if this isn't exposed, Canada won't be run by Canadians anymore. It will be managed like an international investment portfolio. And here's the scary part. If you weren't supposed to notice this, what else aren't they telling you?
So, So that was my short little film that I put together quickly on the subject matter. But what I really want to talk about today, what I really want to talk about is David from Moose on the Loose, man. Top-notch journalism. He goes deep into this. It is insane how deep he went into it. Now this is a 30-minute video. So bear with me, guys. You're gonna want to stick around though. So as I'm speaking right now, run, grab a drink. You can pause it too if you want. Run, grab a drink, come back and sit down, because this is some top-notch stuff. And we'll see if it hits the media, because it should. But it's going to be one of those topics that the media is definitely going to be too scared to touch. So, let's play it. Let's play it. That's it. Wrong button. Here we go.
In fact, we're going to rewire, so to speak, the entire global economy.
What you're about to see is going to blow your mind. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today I'm going to show you how Mark Carney, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump are business partners. It really appears Mark Carney's acting in America's best interest and his own, not Canada's. Let's jump into this. What you're looking at here is my master chart of Mark Carney. If we zoom out, this is what it looks like. This is all his ties, financial ties, any sort of ties to anything. On the left side here, we're not going to look at this much today, but that's his ties to China, still building that out.
And China has shown incredible leadership, with President Xi's historic commitments to peak emissions by 2030 and to decarbonizing the Chinese economy by 2060. at the latest.
On the right side here is the ties to America. We got all the boards he sits on, along with all the boards his wife sits on. And down here is all Brookfield Asset Management, all their assets and connections. Now with that, what we're talking about here today is Mark Carney and his connections to Donald Trump and Elon Musk.
President Trump's tone when it comes to Canada-U.S. relations, Canadians have noticed it's shifted a bit in the past few weeks. He stopped talking about Canada becoming the 51st state, at least publicly. I'm wondering if that's on purpose.
Now, what would be one of the worst things for a Liberal supporter who goes to Tesla dealerships to protest? Would it be the fact that Mark Carney is in business with Elon Musk? And as Donald Trump and Mark Carney worked out this whole thing, they planned everything from the start? Are they planning for Mark Carney to win this election?
Isn't that going to make them more hostile to us and possibly
I'd rather deal with a Liberal than a
for China, closer to Canada, and that would really put us in a bind.
A conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I think it's easier to deal, actually, with a Liberal.
There's a lot of questions here. First, we're going to start off with Mark Carney. He was the vice chair at ESG, Brookfield Asset Management, starting from August 2020 to 2022. Then he became chair until 2025, at which point he stepped down. Now, who took over his position? Bruce Flatt, who's also the CEO of Brookfield Asset Management and Brookfield Corporation. So Bruce Flatt just took over this chair position, most likely bench warming it for Mark Carney to come back if he loses the election.
I have known Bruce Flatt, CEO of Brookfield, and many of the senior partners of Brookfield for longer than I'd care to admit, but I will admit to more than a quarter century. I've seen what they have done with the firm, transforming it into one of the world's leading alternative asset managers, shifting from black to, through the spectrum, the underlying assets towards green, not all the way to green, but towards green.
Now, who else do we have here? Frank McKenna. Frank McKenna actually got Mark Carney into Brookfield Asset Management. You can see here in 2020, McKenna as chairman of Brookfield, chairman of Brookfield Corporation, which you can see here, brought Mark Carney on board as vice chair of ESG, Environmental, Social, and Governance Investment Strategies. Now, who is Frank McKenna? He's the deputy chair at TD Bank from 2006 to today. The same TD Bank that got sued for $3.1 billion. TD Bank agreed to $3.1 billion settlement over facilitating money laundering drug cartels during McKenna's tenure as deputy chair. He was not fired. Interesting that all that's going on, and also that we've got a lot of drug cartels in Canada. I'm not saying there's necessarily any links, just interesting. Now we've established the first of many connections Mark Carney has to people with deep pockets. He's got a lot of them. What you're about to hear in this next clip is Mark Carney exposing how he conducts his business, getting rich off of net zero.
As I said a moment ago, Jason, I wanted to put words into action. I believe that this is climate change is the biggest risk to the world. But when you turn it around, if you're part of the solution, it makes it the biggest commercial opportunity in the world. In effect, we're going to rewire, so to speak, the entire global economy consistent with net zero. And I wanted to be at a place that could play a leading role, in fact, in many respects, a defining role in that.
Let's move over to the other side. So we've got Elon Musk. He's over here. Now, he's got a lot of ties, as you can see. Elon Musk has Twitter, SpaceX, Tesla, and The Boring Company. Now, to understand this madness here, all these...
So, I'm going to pause it here for a second. I want to ask you something. What do you know about this whole situation so far? Let me know in the comments how much of this information you already know and how much is new to you. Because I thought I knew quite a bit. But this man here, whew, let me tell you, he knows a lot. He's done a lot of work breaking this down, and it's unbelievable. Like, top notch. That's what they should call his channel. Top notch journalism, because that is incredible. And here you got CBC breaking down liberal conservative MPs' connections to Brookfield, but they won't go this far into depth. But Mr. Carney, I wonder why. They like the funding. They get more funding than CSIS, Canada's intelligence agency, who we all know is pretty corrupt all in itself. But anyways, let's get back to the video. Enough of me chatting. Let's hit play.
Connections, it all centers around Stripe. everything goes to Stripe. All of these guys are invested and pushing everything towards Stripe to make money. That is what, in my opinion, I'm seeing here. So first off, we've got Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. They founded PayPal together. Peter Thiel created the Founders Fund. The Founders Fund is an investor, as you can see going through here, to Stripe. Elon Musk, also an initial funding round investor in 2011 to Stripe. We also see Peter Thiel funded SpaceX back in 2008, Founders Fund, 20 million investment in SpaceX, and also throughout the years a total of 200 million in SpaceX. We also have former SpaceX engineer Scott Nolan, partner at Founders Fund, invested in Twitter. Now I mentioned Twitter because Twitter had that big buyout and Elon Musk needed money. Who did he get money from? Brookfield Asset Management. That's right. Mark Carney bailed out Elon Musk with that money he needed for Twitter. And we see that right here. So we have far leftists like this lady here who thinks she knows what she's talking about. She really doesn't. It's important to make our decision on who we're going to vote for based on facts and not emotion.
I have to tell you that this election, the one you have on April 28th, you're going to want to vote against the person who is in bed with and on the same side as the person who is currently running the United States. You need to cast a ballot that puts Mark Carney and the Liberals undeniably in charge of your nation. You need to choose someone who's not in bed with Elon Musk. Someone whose closest advisor isn't buddy-buddy with our vice president.
Elon Musk reveals 18 investors pumping $7 billion into his buyout, including Sequoia Capital, Brookfield, Private Equity Insights. We can see that here. Brookfield invested $250 million into Twitter to help bail him out. We've also got Sequoia Capital here, $800 million, Qatar Holdings, LLC, $375 million, Fidelity Management, $316 million. We'll get to Sequoia and Fidelity later, but first Qatar Holdings. So who is Qatar Holdings, LLC? Well, they're a subsidiary of the Qatar Investment Authority, which invested $14.2 billion in Brookfield. So I've got another Brookfield over here because it's a busy map. Now, if you missed that video...
Like, holy cow, you see this? This guy. He really went deep. And he connected the dots really damn well. As you can tell, he's made this pin board. Jeez. Just looking at it, sitting here looking at it, like, this guy has broken it down. I like how he's put the Rogers buyout here, which just came on recent news that no one's talking about in the media. Typically, if there was an election, I can guarantee you this would have been all over the media. But as we're in an election cycle right now, it's going to be under the carpet. Anyways, let's get back to the video.
Qatar, as it shows here, invested money in Brookfield Asset Management, and then Brookfield, then in turn, which you can see here, bailed out the Kushner companies for $1.1 billion at 666 Fifth Avenue. I have a whole video on this. If you're wondering who's Kushner companies, Jared Kushner, it's his dad's company. It's his company now too. He's married to Ivanka Trump, Donald Trump's daughter. Donald Trump needed a bailout for his son-in-law. Brookfield came through.
Donald Trump has come out and endorsed Mark Carney.
So this same company here, Qatar Investment Authority, that helped Brookfield bail out the Kushner companies, it's also an investor in Elon Musk's Twitter. You see how this is all connected? They're all working together. So the money flows from all these investors to Twitter, helps out Elon Musk. Now who else helps Elon Musk? Fidelity Investments. $316 million go to Twitter. Also, as you can see here, in 2015, $1 billion goes to SpaceX from Fidelity. And in 2024, Fidelity invested $2.7 billion in SpaceX. Now who else did Fidelity invest in? Stripe. $600 million, as you can see here. So I mentioned it all comes back to Stripe. Now I want to be clear here. I like Elon Musk. I like what he's doing with SpaceX and Tesla, the new update on Grok and X. He's a businessman, and so is Donald Trump. These are just two businessmen that are looking after America. The problem here lies in that Mark Carney seems to care more about doing business in America and China than doing what's best for Canada. Well, if we go back over to Brookfield over here, and we go up, Jared Kushner has a brother. His name is Joshua Kushner. Now, he has a company called Thrive Capital. As you can see here, Thrive Capital invested $70 million in 2014 into Stripe. They also invested in 2023 $1.8 billion into Stripe. As you can see from this article, Thrive Capital believed to be leading new multi-billion-dollar investment in Stripe. Fintech giant Stripe as a company seeks to raise 55 to 60 billion valuation. So now we've got Donald Trump's extended family. We've got Elon Musk, who is in charge of Doge for Donald Trump. And we've also got JD Vance, Donald Trump's vice president, who was funded by none other than Peter Thiel. As it says here, $10 million donation to Super PAC Protect Ohio Values supports JD Vance 2022 Senate campaign. These guys are all connected, and that's not...
Not only are they all connected, They are funneling money to prop up different businesses so other people buy into it, and then they'll deflate the value later on, take all those people's money who invested into the company, and then start it somewhere else. Oh, that's worst case scenario. That's worst case scenario. Or best case scenario in their terms is we just keep propping the value of this company up. We just keep funneling our own money into it. It's no loss, no gain. Or sorry, no loss, all the gain. Like, come on. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Not all. We still got Tesla and the Boring Company. So we go look over here. What's this dark arrow here? It's Brookfield Asset Management investing in Tesla, Elon Musk's company. I apologize, liberal supporters who absolutely hate Elon Musk. Your boy Mark Carney is business partners with Elon Musk. As you see here, 2021 Brookfield to create solar neighborhood with Tesla approximately is an $80 to $100 million deal.
We can't shrink ourselves to sustainability. We need to invest and grow. And the core of that investment, and Jason knows this well, is a complete overhaul of our energy system.
There's also this one here, Willowbrook Mall, first in U.S. to pilot Tesla's Megapack. They put solar panels on top of this mall. And then you can see this article is from February 26, 2024. So this is just a year ago. We also got this one here, Tesla partners with Brookfield, Draka to establish first all-solar neighborhood in Austin. New neighborhood in Southeast Austin is set to become first Tesla solar neighborhood, part of the electric automaker and clean energy company's goal to build up solar energy resources at the neighborhood level.
If we transition, if we succeed, success is failure for some companies in this world on climate change. Enormous stranded assets if we succeed, but wait a minute, if we don't, then the world's heading to 3 or 4 degrees. There's an opportunity with this fund for us to help define what good is, what real transition is.
Now, we've already established direct ties between Mark Carney, who was in charge of ESG and then eventually chair, doing these deals with Elon Musk at Tesla, at Twitter. We've also got Brookfield bailing out Donald Trump's son-in-law's company, which I should note in an exchange, it appears Qatar got friendly relations from the United States. The United States was trying to convince Saudi Arabia foreign policy to go easy on Qatar because there was conflict back then. You can watch my other video to get all the details on that. So Trump tries to help out Qatar. Qatar funds Brookfield. Brookfield bails out Jared Kushner's dad's company here. We got Jared Kushner's brother, Thrive Capital, all going to Stripe. We also have the Boring Company. So you can see here, coming from Brookfield, during Series C funding round of $675 million, we don't know how much, but Brookfield did invest in the Boring Company. I bet Mark Carney knows Elon Musk. He probably knows him well, as you can see here. The Boring Company Series C funding says here $675 million, led by V Capital and Sequoia Capital. We're happy to share a group leading real estate partners, strategic importance, also joining around, including Brookfield, Lennar, blah 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 blah. With that, we've got Sequoia Capital over here. Now, who's that? They're a big investment company, and this was run by Michael Moritz. So it says here, former partner at Sequoia Capital. He did step down here, departed in July 2023. As we see here, Sequoia Capital Series C funding round, $675 million to the Boring Company. Now, Sequoia Capital also invested $9 billion in Chinese tech. As you see here, it's the biggest Western investor of Chinese tech. U.S. lawmakers accuse VC firm of funding Chinese military-linked firms. Sequoia Capital, Qualcomm Ventures, and 3 other venture firm capitals plowed at least $3 billion into Chinese tech companies that support Beijing's military. Now, why is that important? Because Michael Moritz, who used to sit as former partner Sequoia Capital, is also a board member on Stripe. And who else is a board member on Stripe? Mark Carney. He's at the center of all of this. As you see here, all connected to Stripe. These guys are all pushing Stripe and getting stinking rich off of it, because if you look at Stripe's value, it has gone astronomically through the roof. If we look at Stripe's valuation, this is a private company, but here's the valuation of it. This doesn't show the full picture, but on this FXC intelligence website it does show us. Mark Carney joined the board of Stripe in 2011, but he could have been an investor much earlier. I used AI to generate a full chart, so as you can see here, it's added now this year. This is 2025, and then all the years going back to the beginning when Elon Musk invested way back here as initial round. So you can see all these guys dogpile into Stripe. The valuation of the company explodes. So I'm sure they've all made a lot of money. And just to look at the timelines here, so Mark Carney joined a board of Stripe of February 2021.
Just as I was saying, they just funnel the money in it, increases value, make a bunch of money, and then rinse and repeat.
One, Michael Moritz, he was early 2011, the same as Elon Musk here. The initial funding round, he got out late 2023. Who knows if he cashed out or not. These guys are all savvy businessmen, all investing in Stripe, and all likely got rich from this, which further reinforces my point that Mark Carney, Elon Musk, and Donald Trump, and all those other guys, they're all business partners. They know each other. And considering Mark Carney went to China to meet Xi Jinping as a representative of U.S. business, do you think he's going to act in Canada's best interest? He cannot be our next prime minister. And sitting on the board, Mark Carney most definitely got to know Michael Moritz, which probably gave him a lot of those connections in China. He also developed some of those back in his days as the Bank of England governor.
Issues around the new industries, particularly around China's leadership in climate change and the further acceleration that's necessary for that. That's a crucial discussion.
And considering you know how much Mark Carney loves China, loves doing business in China, had business meetings with Xi Jinping.
China.
交融，那不就你中有我，我中有你吗？气永远会存在，因为他人和人是不一样的，一家人他也是不一样。这样，中美关系史是一部两国人民友好交往。这样，中美关系史是一部两国人民友好交往的，两国各界人士要多来往。
I wouldn't be surprised if these guys are really good buddies. Now, Mark Carney sits on the boards of many different companies. I have them all listed out here, at least the ones I could find. We're not going to go over that in this video because we've got other business to attend to, and that's down here. So going back to Brookfield Asset Management, coming down here, so I've just put another Brookfield here because Brookfield's got their fingers in everything. Now, who's someone who worked at Brookfield for a long time? It's this guy here, Jack Cockwell, director at Brookfield since 1979. Now, leave him for a second. Look over here. We've got Stephen A. Schwartzman, who is the chair president of Trump's Strategic and Policy Forum in 2017, donated $33.5 million to Republican candidates, so directly connected to Donald Trump. He's a big supporter of the Republican Party and of Donald Trump. He also endorsed Donald Trump to become president. Well, he's the CEO and chairman of Blackstone. Blackstone just recently, this is days ago, agreed to buy 49.9% of Rogers in Canada. And who sits on the board of Rogers in Canada? Jack Cockwell of Brookfield Asset Management, board of directors in Rogers since October 2021. Rogers concludes definitive agreement on Canadian $7 billion equity investment. Says the deal involves Blackstone acquiring 49.9% stake, a 20% voting interest in new Canadian subsidy that will own a portion of Rogers' wireless network, while Rogers maintains 50.1% equity, 80% voting interest, and full operational control. Now, this whole deal right here is an entire other rabbit hole. Is this Trump and America trying to move their way into Canada and take over our telecom? I don't know. This brings up a lot of questions. But if we look at the time of this deal, it's right here, April 4th, 2025. We're talking a week and a half ago that this happened. Now we've established a big web here of Mark Carney doing business with Elon Musk, bailing him out, working with him in Tesla, The Boring Company, Twitter. The only company I haven't found him involved in is SpaceX. And all these connections between Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Peter Thiel, Mark Carney, Michael Moritz all flow directly to Stripe. This is their cash cow. Now you're wondering why Stripe? I think it's because it's got more room to grow than, say, Tesla. Tesla's already worth so much, about 10 times worth Stripe. Stripe has more room to grow and make more money for these investors. So seeing all of that, it's quite clear that Pierre Poilievre is the only one that will stand up to Donald Trump, because Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and Mark Carney are business partners. The Liberals were caught sending this out here. You can see there's a lot at stake. President Trump's tariffs will hurt Canadian workers and weaken our economy, but Pierre Poilievre won't stand up to him. His slogans aren't solutions. After you see all the connections, all this stuff is just ridiculous nonsense.
We need to remind ourselves that it is Trump that is driving a lot of attitudes on the part of voters, and they still haven't figured out how to manage the Trump question.
But we're not done. Oh, no, we're not. Let's zoom out here. So we got Brookfield Asset Management. Now, what else are they invested in? Heat pumps. So we've got Enercare heat pumps. I've mentioned.
Don't forget who was pushing heat pumps not very long ago. Justin Trudeau and BC Hydro and a bunch of other companies out east, but I'm just talking BC Hydro because they're local.
This one before on the channel, the Liberals just announced they want to do a lot more heat pumps. So Mark Carney just recently announcing this, funding home retrofits and lowering utility bills, adopt heat pumps, more mentions of heat pumps. Carney's plan to spend $1 billion on heat pumps. This company is owned by Brookfield Asset Management. Are we surprised that he's pushing the heat pumps? No. Nope. What Mark Carney does is he lobbies governments. He tries to change policy through politicians. Then he sets up his business to be the solution to the policy he just convinced a politician to make.
Climate change is the biggest risk to the world, But when you turn it around, if you're part of the solution, it makes it the biggest commercial opportunity.
That's what we're seeing with the heat pumps. Justin Trudeau put in that heat pump program last year. As I've shown before, Train heat pumps, Brookfield invested $1.45 million in Train.
Where we are net zero today. Brookfield is net zero, and that's not net zero just in our operations, you know, the buildings we have and the if we ever take flights again, no, when we take flights again, and but across the $575 billion asset portfolio. And the reason we're net zero is we have this enormous renewables business that we've built up, and all the avoided emissions that come with that.
What's interesting,
they're not net zero. There's no fucking way they could be net zero. They have their money so deep into fossil fuels, it's crazy. They own a bunch of pipelines in Canada. Intercorp is one of them. They own a couple in the States. Like, not to mention they own coal mines in the States, potash plant. Come on, like, they are so deep connected to fossil fuels. It's crazy that people are just finding this information out now. I mean, he's obviously known about it for a while because he's been able to dig deep. I got ADHD, so good luck. I couldn't keep up on that, man. I'm like into it for a bit and then I'm out of it. Anyways, let's keep on this video. It's already hitting that 40-minute mark. I don't want to take too much more of your time. You can probably just we might as well just finish the video so you don't have to go to. But I recommend you go to his channel though.
About what he just said there about Brookfield being net zero. This report's come out and proven that's not true. Brookfield fudged their numbers. They're not as green and eco as they claim to be. Brookfield's climate paradox, climate pledges versus fossil fuel reality. Brookfield portrays itself as a climate-friendly investor with over 215 fossil fuel assets emitting nearly 159 million metric tons of CO2 annually. Their actions paint a different picture. Here we have a graph 100%. Of all their energy assets: coal, gas, biomass, hydro, wind, petroleum, solar. There's a lot of coal. That's the dirtiest one on Earth. Most of their assets are in North America. We do have this one in Abu Dhabi, LNG, as I mentioned earlier. This is all a green eco facade to make money. That's all this is. Yep. Now, another player in this space is Schneider Electric. Now, if we zoom out a bit, Brookfield and Schneider Electric,
because they're able to manipulate the size of the market of competitors. When they push in policies that say, hey, no, you can't do this, you can't do this, you get less pushback, or not pushback, less competition into it. And so when you have less competition, you're the only one making money. Well, guess what? Money's going to start going up and up and up because there's no competition.
Have been doing business together, a structured methodology for planning commercial real estate portfolio decarbonization. The race to net zero is a challenging global commercial real estate market. Brookfield Asset Management and Schneider Electric, you can see both their names up there. Decarbonization at scale could be an overwhelming task. WS, a partnership with Schneider Electric and Brookfield Asset Management, have developed a new methodology for corporate real estate teams to analyze, prioritize brownfield modernization products, etc., etc. These guys have been working together. We also got Brookfield Office Properties chooses global specialist in energy management, Schneider Electric, to provide tenants with increased knowledge and control over energy usage. I believe they have a smart meter that you're able to use your smartphone and connect to it and then see what your energy usage is. So
they make a bunch of electronics for that industry. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do have an app for your phone to track your smart meter, see your usage. I would not be surprised.
Brookfield's working with Schneider Electric. Now you must be wondering, what does Schneider Electric do? They provide advanced control systems that improve efficiency and sustainability of heat pumps, compressors, HVAC, thermostats, and controllers, Space Logic SE7000 series, room controllers, touchscreen room controller, variable frequency drives, etc., etc. And then we got this deal here. Interesting timing, March 25th, 2025. We're talking like 2.5 weeks ago that this just dropped. Schneider Electric to invest $700 million in US to power AI boom. It's almost like they're setting up Brookfield Asset Management, Mark Carney, and Donald Trump to just do a clean sweep and make a pile of cash with these handful of companies, all of it together. Plan to invest $700 million in operations over the next 2 years, mid tariff threats. Company said investment through 2027 would focus bolstering the U.S. energy infrastructure and power AI, boost domestic manufacturing. And if we look between Trane heat pumps and Schneider Electric, they've been known to do business in the past. This is from 2002. If I were a betting man, I would think there's more business coming between these two companies, considering all these ties that we're looking at here. So with all these ties between Mark Carney, Brookfield Asset Management, Donald Trump, and Elon Musk, it seems like Mark Carney is playing both sides. They just bought Colonial Pipeline. This was a deal that Mark Carney did before he left Brookfield Asset Management. So we go down here, there's Colonial Pipeline. Brookfield to buy Colonial Pipeline for $9 billion, including debt. Colonial Pipeline stretches 5,500 miles from Houston, Texas to New York's harbor. I believe this is the longest pipeline in America. Something that really makes a lot of sense now is why Mark Carney moved the headquarters of Brookfield Asset Management to America just after Donald Trump became president.
By now, we've all heard about Mark Carney's decision to abandon Canada. As we were facing this major threat from the U.S. administration, Mark Carney was already leaving Canada behind to move his investments into the U.S. Then he was even caught lying about it.
The decision, the formal decision of the board, happened after I ceased to be on the board.
But press releases from October say the decision had already been made and only needed formal approval. City News contacted the Carney campaign and Brookfield for an explanation, but has received no response.
Now the question is, why would he lie about that? If it wasn't something important, he wouldn't have lied about it.
Nope.
It's something big. Is it the fact that he's working with Donald Trump to boost profits and assets of all the companies they're both intertangled with?
But the story is so much worse than that. Let's take a look at what Carney and Brookfield were up to years before Donald Trump became president. This is Mark, don't call me Vice Chair Carney.
You were the vice chairman at Brookfield Asset Management prior to
the chair. I was the chair, sorry.
As head of Brookfield, he had a long history of putting America ahead of Canada. Now, the way Brookfield set up its corporate structure is a little bit complicated, and they're not the most transparent company. Probably why Mark Carney got along so well there. But here are the details. Brookfield Asset Management handles Brookfield Corporation's investments, kind of like if you had a financial advisor to handle your investments. Both are Brookfield's, and just to make the point that they're one big happy family, Mark Carney's friend, Bruce Flatt, is CEO of both Brookfield Corporation and Brookfield Asset Management.
So remember, this is the guy who took over Mark Carney's position after he stepped down to run for prime minister. He's a bench warmer if Mark Carney loses the election. I'm almost certain Mark Carney's going to go back to that position if he loses.
Brookfield
100%.
posts their annual reports, including where their assets are located. Mark Carney was appointed vice chair of...
Okay, so two things. I was correct a few factual things. One, I was chair of Brookfield Asset Management.
Mark Carney was appointed chair of Brookfield Asset Management in August 2020. So what do the numbers show about Mark Carney's time as chairman? Well, let's take a look. From 2021 to 2024, Brookfield's assets in the United States increased by 22%.
There it is, folks. This next part here really ties things together.
During that same time, Brookfield's assets in Canada decreased by 8%. More investments in the US, less investments in Canada. So the man who wants to be prime minister of our country wasn't even investing in Canada when he had the chance. Brookfield's assets during that time increased in just about every other country except for Canada. Take a look for yourself. While Carney was head of Brookfield, their investments in Australia was up 41%, 31% higher in India, 43% in Germany, 58% higher in Asia, and in a category called Other, their investments went up 164%. Now, investments is one thing. Clearly, Mark Carney didn't have the confidence in the economy that he was helping to run as Justin Trudeau's senior economic advisor. This is Mark Carney. This is his actual record, creating jobs outside of Canada and moving investments to the United States. And this is Brookfield, a company that Mark Carney still holds investments in, but he refuses to share any details with Canadians. When he had a chance, he wasn't choosing Canada. He wasn't choosing to invest in our country or in our workers. He wasn't creating jobs here at home. He was exporting those investments all across the world. So given his track record of moving his head office to the US, of investing more in other countries and America than here in Canada, after lying about his track record and keeping all his conflicts of interest hidden, what makes you think that he would stick up for us as Prime Minister?
He won't.
The only way to strengthen our economy and put Canada first is to vote Pierre Poilievre and the common sense Conservatives.
And that's just it. Mark Carney's track record points directly to America with all the conventional energy and China for everything sustainable. And I really believe he wants to be the leader of Canada because he has never been the top of the food chain. You see his attitude there when he was called vice chair. He was vice chair. See it here. He was hired on as vice chair from his buddy Frank McKenna at TD in 2020. He was then upgraded to chair, which was a position that didn't exist before. They created this for him. So I think he's got some serious ego in this. He wants to be king of the castle, just like Justin Trudeau. He knows Canada has a ton of natural resources. He can make a ton of money from us, but Canadians won't be the ones that prosper. It'll be China and America. So Mark Carney's been putting all these pieces in place. We noticed that Justin Trudeau was blocking new LNG facilities in Canada for the past 10 years. Is that because Qatar Investment Authority invested $14.2 billion in Brookfield and they don't want someone competing with their LNG? See, Qatar is the world leader in LNG. And the fact that Brookfield Asset Management, through a deal that Mark Carney, when he was still there, was organized and prepared, they just bought this pipeline. And now Mark Carney's coming out and saying he's not going to build pipelines across Canada. He wants to keep the emissions cap in place. He's essentially helping Donald Trump make money in America with pipelines, and on the other side of it, he wants to make money with green climate tech in China.
We don't have a lot of time with climate, so I think the space between moving from a voluntary approach around transition planning to mandatory is much shorter. In fact,
Canada is getting used. We're getting used in the middle of this situation.
We have almost 30% of our emissions in this country in the production and transportation of oil and gas. This is an enormous figure. It's an unusually high figure relative to other countries, okay, in the production. We need to get those emissions down.
Meanwhile, Mark Carney set up a tax dodging scheme here in both the Cayman Islands for Brookfield Asset Management, as you see here, registered the third fund. The first two funds are in Bermuda. These funds are $15 billion, $10 billion, and this one is $5 billion, the Catalytic Transition Fund. So Mark Carney has set this up so Brookfield dodged taxes in Canada. They're making money using pipelines in America, and then green climate tech in China. Qatar keeps a stranglehold on LNG. Then one must ask, if we follow this down here, what's the deal with Interpipeline Canada? Well, Brookfield owns this pipeline in Canada. So we take a look here. This is right on the border of Saskatchewan. It's all these pipelines in Alberta that Interpipeline has. Now, if Mark Carney puts in a pipeline across Canada, he's going to be creating competition for Brookfield for these pipelines. He doesn't want to create more competition here. He doesn't want to create more competition for Donald Trump and Colonial Pipeline in America. And essentially all of this is just for money. Mark Carney will use any opportunity possible to make money, whether it's green, climate, tech, or conventional. But new conventional in Canada would go against his investments in Brookfield Asset Management. Right, and then we come back to this whole situation with TD and the cartels and direct ties. He obviously knows Frank McKenna. There's a lot of questions here, and we're missing a lot of answers. With all these ties here, I haven't even mentioned that Brookfield owns all these houses, rents houses in America and in Canada. Mark Carney just announced a $25 billion housing program to build tiny houses. Brookfield owns Modulaire Group, a tiny house company. You can see here they bought it for $5 billion. There's a lot of moving parts here, but one thing is undeniable. Mark Carney knows Elon Musk. They both sit on the board of Stripe. I'm sure they know each other well. They're business partners. They're direct ties to Donald Trump and his family. These guys are all working together. I wouldn't be surprised if Donald Trump has a lot of investment in Stripe as well. This really answers the question too, why Donald Trump didn't come at Mark Carney with the whole 51st state governor stuff. He showed Mark Carney respect because he bailed out his son-in-law, because he bailed out one of his members of government there in Elon Musk and the Doge team. With everything you just seen there, it seems very clear that Mark Carney appears to be working with America to get rich on conventional energy and working with China to get rich on sustainable energy, and using Canada as the workhorse that gets none of it.
Man, I'm telling you, if you don't know who Moose on the Loose is, go check him out now. He is incredible. He does amazing work, and quite frankly, he's got the money to do so too. So he can put a lot of time into it. Clearly he has. The connection is like, woof. It's nice to see that someone has put the time and effort to put the dots down and make all the connections like visually instead of just in your head. It's like I knew most of these connections. I kind of overlooked the stripe at the time. This was 3 weeks ago. I'm sure there's more information coming out as we speak about this, but it's hard. Stuff gets just buried in the Google. So anyways, that's it for today's episode. Thank you for watching. If you stuck around to the end and you hear me and you haven't yet subscribed, please subscribe. And as always, go check out Moose on the Loose on YouTube, because that's some dedicated journalism right there. Well, that's all I have for today, folks. Peace.